Today to practice or no?
Hey, we're live on
Ben, please
YouTube.
hold your questions till the end of
Yes,
the podcast.
please. Right. Hey, everybody. This is Dr. Kevin McGovern, and we are coming to you live for another episode of the Prove It Live podcast, episode number 88.
Terry Glenn.
Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving holiday. And without further ado, I'll turn you over to my podcast host who just, butted in there to hear himself talk, Mr. Mike Ferry. Mike?
Yeah, so that was poignant and relevant. It was 88,
Yes.
which is the world-renowned Terry Glenn, wide receiver for the New England Patriots.
She, right?
Yes.
Can't say that now.
Famously, yeah. Bill Parcells called him she. I am Mike Ferry from the Farm Baseball Performance Institute, alongside Dr. Kevin McGovern from Perfect Motion Sports Therapy, and Ben Bills with the lights on, and less rednecky than when he originally started today.
Well, I could have gone without the insults this morning, so I just decided to take it off.
I'm a fan of the redneck look. You know that.
Good.
I'm a total redneck poser.
As the weather gets colder, the more redneck you got to be.
I agree with that. It's
It
hard to
is
say
cold
redneck in the summer. It really is. I mean, how do you redneck in the summer?
You can go like backyard redneck with like a cutoff, some like jean shorts and some boots. Yeah, I can see
shorts, long socks, and work boots.
Yeah, straw hat.
Work boots. Yeah, that works.
Straw hat for the summer, felt hat
I
for
have.
the winter.
Yep.
Basically anything that you find at like Country Fest.
Yeah.
As long as you're holding a red Solo cup everywhere you go, you're good.
It's good.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Like whenever
you
you
have
were
to
at
have-
a Country Fest, you would be a redneck.
You gotta have the dip can ring in the back pocket of your jeans too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether you actually have the can there or not. But yeah, I mean, it's because I'm not a jeans in the summer guy. I can't do it. It's just not. Some people
It's too
can,
hot
but
at night.
way
Maybe
too hot. Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, I never
in the
understood the
summer.
people that wore jeans in Texas in the summer. It's like 110 degrees. Like, who are you trying to
Nothing.
impress? Like, no
Yeah.
one's impressed you're wearing jeans right now.
Yeah.
Well, years ago, at least, you weren't allowed into many Boston bars or clubs with shorts.
Yeah, or
at
jeans.
night,
Some of them.
or jeans. Yeah, you just weren't allowed. No, hats, none of that.
Yeah, that's how it is down there. You can't. If you're gonna go to a bar, guys have to be wearing pants, no shorts or anything.
No shorts. No shorts at the honky tonk.
No
shorts
gym,
at the
no
honky
gym
tonk.
attire, none of that stuff. Yeah, I remember that. But
Yeah,
now that's all
yeah.
kind of lessened. Or
Well, it's like flying. Like, remember back? I mean, I can even remember. Like, we're not that old, but I can remember. Like, you would kind of dress up to get on a plane. You would want to look nice on the plane. You'd have like your travel outfit.
Agreed.
And then you have your other outfits for the rest of wherever you're going.
Yeah,
Now it's like you wear pajamas.
Well, I think 9/11 took care of that because so you don't have to take off your shirt, tie, shoes. I want to wear. If I could go naked on the plane, be like, and then dress after you get through security, to be like, here I am. There it is.
They'd probably still pull you aside. Like,
Yeah, for the sake of everyone else, just don't go naked.
No, I wasn't. Really, probably gonna do that. But yeah,
you never know.
Listen, listen, buddy boy. As my dad said, I got to this age. You still have to get here. And I played baseball till I'm in my 40s. You're already retired.
I got a long way to go.
You're already retired.
But if your jersey, if number 88, you're not thinking of Michael Irving, you're kind of not right in the head. You know
who's that?
Michael Irving.
Yeah,
Does he play football?
He played for the Mean Machine on the longest yard.
Oh yes.
There you go.
Yes. He played in the NFL?
Deacon Johnson.
Didn't he snort the NFL up his nose?
Probably.
Well, he's from the U, right? He's a U boy.
Yeah, the other thing he was famous for. No, I like Michael Irvin. He's. I can listen to him talk football. He's not so bad. But speaking of football, there's the other kind of football. Quick top of the order, right?
Oh no, you're not.
Ben, well, you know my feelings on this. You know this.
All right, I'm just going to give you. I have some numbers.
All right,
ready?
Yep.
A little over 300.
Okay.
4.
Yep.
1.
Yep.
And 1. Okay. Ready?
The last two ones have to be goals scored.
Over 300 minutes. 4 total shots on goal. 1 goal against and a penalty kick. 1 goal for in 3 games.
I
don't
get
shots
it.
on goal.
I know. I don't. Like, I try every time.
I try. Yeah. It's the worst sport I've ever seen. You got 500 people in that box. Unless there's some unless like all the players like suddenly fall down, there's no chance of scoring.
It's insane, dude. Like they're all so fast. There's too many guys on the field. You have this field. Everything happens in here. And then it's like, oh, someone gets ahead of the pack. It's like, oh, the whole crowd comes alive, and you don't even get a shot on goal. It gets shut down, and it's like every World Cup, Olympics, whatever. When people all this, because America's as a nation never been big soccer country, but people try to get behind it during the big events. So yeah, I try. I do too. I'm like, and I'm going to give it a real try this year. And God, it's like it's brutal.
I've watched all 3 games. I even watched Mexico and Argentina. Like I got to the 80th minute. We're out to dinner. And it was 0-0. And everything's like, oh, he almost got a shot off. But then it somehow ended up 2-0. I don't know how that happened. But
well, here's how you
like I say you should play without goalies.
Well, so this is the thing, right? So I noticed in one of it was the last USA game, they replayed a shot that missed by 7 feet over and over again because it was like that's as close to something they had that they could talk about as an opportunity.
And the one guy who scored got kneed in the nads. He might be out for this game. Like his nuts are up in his teeth somewhere.
That's the other thing too. He probably is really hurt, but the flopping is unparalleled.
Every player has got. I heard this because we know my connections with the WWE. I did hear this that every soccer player went to the training zone in Orlando to learn how to flop. So they can flop from the top rope. They can flop. Yeah. Because it's like it is so egregious. Like they'll slow it down. They're like, then you see the guy in agony, and then they don't call a yellow card, so he gets up and starts moving.
Right?
It's horrible.
It's bad. And Ben, I know you like this, so I'm just going to say my last piece. This is probably my most controversial take on sports, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to check soccer off as non-sport. It's a game, and my reason for this because you say, well, Mike, it meets pretty much all your criteria, right? You've got offense and defense, right? And you've got a ball.
They're athletic.
Right. They're athletic. They're definitely athletic. But here's my take. If you only need one guy on your team to have arms, not a sport.
Or if at the end of the game, it's the same score as it is at the beginning of the game, did a game truly happen?
Well, just don't forget extra time that nobody knows how much it is. No one knows. The mystery.
That's not fixed, right? Oh, just the referee's going to hold the time, but we don't know. And then they'll put up, there's 5 extra minutes, and it turns out 5 is like 9. Like, well, what is it?
Yeah.
It's just.
All right, fair turn, Ben. Can you defend it?
I think, no, I agree. I mean, like, I don't agree with everything, but I think... with your heritage being, Spain and all, you'd be a little bit more cultural diverse towards the sport that makes its way around the world. But
and Ireland too. Ireland's
you would think.
And I got a little Austrian. We got a team, a little Austrian in there.
You would think that, but I think the only reason I'm big into soccer is I played soccer my whole life. My older brother played soccer. My mom's from England. Her whole family's from England. So it's like our household was kind of like a culture thing, like soccer. We grew up around soccer. Now I have friends that are like you guys from like big American, despite your heritage, American sports is you guys' route. It's just the culture thing. It's just different. It's just it's like, to me, like I don't like hockey. Like I never grew up around hockey. I don't know the first thing about hockey. It's boring to me. So it's like, I can see either way. I can see how soccer is boring, but I can also see how it's exciting. So I just leave it.
Let me just ask the question. What is the object of soccer?
I would say to win the game, just like every other sport you play. Right. Also, let me ask you something.
How do you win the game?
Have you played soccer before?
No. Well, I mean, Mike? Just picking a pickup and kicking
just kick, like not organized.
Recess,
so it's just different. Like when you're a little kid and you're playing soccer, you get that feeling. When like even when I was in high school playing soccer, it was just fun. Like it's just fun to run around, and I do think the flopping is a little bit excessive, but I think it's also a bit tactical because if you're going to get away with the call, then why not just do it? It's kind of like the LeBron James effect. You're going to get called for a flop, so you're going to flop either way. You know what I mean?
LeBron James just got fouled now.
And I also think that the soccer players know how to fall in a way where they can avoid injuries, because you don't see very many ACL injuries, you don't see very many hamstring, you don't see like Achilles tears very often in soccer, which you would think running and planting and cutting, you would see a lot of that.
That's a very good point.
I think
there's a way to fall. I mean, Tom Brady.
I think they
trained
trained
I agree with
themselves
that.
to be able to fall in a way where they can.
I train people to fall.
Yep.
So,
No, it's an actual thing, especially like in
100%.
martial arts. Yeah, it's a big thing.
Yep. 100%.
yeah, you would think soccer would be the leading sport where like hamstring injuries occur, but it's not.
100%.
They do a lot of running, and I would. I mean, I grew up around it too, believe it or not, because, I grew up in Boston. It's all Irish and, off the boat Irish guys, where I grew up in Brighton. And, the club that I used to work at, a place called the Kells, it's no longer in Brighton, every
God
Sunday.
rest its soul.
If everybody in there watch the match, like I was coming to watch the match today. And people would jam in there, watch it.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit and watch an MLS game on a weekday because I think it's fun. But throughout the World Cup, of course, I'll watch it because it's the World Cup,
See, I think, hockey, like playoff hockey is insane. You watch a goalie that's on his game and he's standing on his head and he makes 44 saves, and it's just insane type of action, like so close to goals that's 44 times where it's like, we got a goal. Oh.
Yeah, I would love to get into hockey. I would need someone to sit down and explain it to me.
So, I can help you with that.
Yeah.
Gagny's a good guy. Gagny's like a Bruins Yahoo fan. Like
just get EA Sports Hockey and play it on Nintendo.
It's in the game.
It's in the game.
That's
what I heard.
All right. Enough about that atrocity.
All right. So last time we were on, which was a couple weeks ago, you guys had your first week of off-season training, off-season training, and you did some testing.
Correct.
And you weren't really happy with the results. Most, if not all, of your kids failed basic movements, fielding positions, hitting positions. So let's get a little update, and then what you did to correct those measures, and how the kids respond, where are they now, what's going on?
Sure. Well, to be clear, we weren't really upset. Like, we knew what we were going to see. Like, it's the same every year, especially with the new kids, because they've just never been taught the right way. Our return players, there's maybe some disappointment there. Like, hey, you weren't working this on your own, since we've last seen you. But you see this too, Kevin, right? I mean, you talk about your game test and no one's ever passed it. So similarly, we have, posture, we had points for posture, and just getting in the batter's box and getting into load position. And none of them can do it. So we spent the very next week. So we had our first week of testing. The very next week, and I'm sure it seemed boring to some of the players, but this is part of the reason why these kids aren't getting this stuff is we just stuck to it. We said, we're not going to come off the tee. We're going to stay on the tee when it comes to hitting. We're just going to, teach them the posture, break it down into pieces. So from stance into load phase. And that's where we want to see the posture, and then work on just the initial rotation. Like, we didn't really get into swing mechanics, just stayed on posture the entire time. And that went into defense too. And, so interestingly, or not really, but ready position as an infielder, right, is pretty much the same thing as a load position. You want your hips back, you're sitting your butt down, hips back, chest forward, chin up, shoulders down and back, the whole 9 yards. So we worked on both offense and defense, working on that postural alignment, getting them to understand, teaching them what lordosis is and teaching them that they need to feel that in every single athletic position they're in. So, and honestly, we had some big improvements even in the first week. We're now on to technically our fourth week, but really it's like our third, because, with Thanksgiving week, it was abbreviated. Everyone only had one training session, but, so we're staying on that. That's going to be if you don't, this, Kevin, if you don't have that, it doesn't even make sense to move on to the other stuff.
Correct.
Right.
Now, did you guys do any specific drills to work on positioning or posture, or is it just more correcting movements on the fly, or do you see some kids get it, some kids don't get it, and what are you doing about that?
Yeah. So good question. So there were some drills that we didn't do program wide, because mostly, our instructors are all trained to see this. So it was really, if a kid's up, we get 10 swings off the tee. So you could get in your stance. Okay, now load and pause. And in that position, we could see where their knees were, if the weight was on the outside part of their feet, all that stuff. And we would correct them. And because the idea is, if you start your swing from a certain posture and position, and you keep starting your swing, then no matter where you start in your stance, your brain's going to know, oh, we got to get to this point before we start the swing. So that's the idea behind it. And so, but for some kids, we did, like, we have a stool, bring the stool out and say, okay, when you load, just feel your butt kind of touch the stool, things like that. So there's some things that we would use, but mostly correcting. So you probably know this already, but there's no more than 5 kids per instructor at any given time. So, instructor will have 5 guys, have an entire hour to work with them on that sort of thing. So that's what we did. And the last question is, did some of the kids not get it? Yes. There's still some kids that just like their knees just collapse. It's just, but it's not their fault. Like since they first held a bat, they've been told, bend your knees, and here's the thing, Kevin, do you see this? The bounce,
or
they all bounce.
That's just killing your knees.
And I've seen dads and coaches do that. They go, hey, bend your knees, and then they mimic it and they go and they bounce. So the kids are just mimicking.
So Ben, that Scrabble college that you went, I use the word Scrabble because I believe in the name. There's 652 consonants, 37 vowels.
Hey, they're changing the name of that school, by the way.
Oh, thank God! Are they really? From what? So, what is the name of what is the full name of the college that you went to?
Southwestern Assemblies of God University.
Praise the Lord! Hallelujah!
Praise
now,
the Lord.
What are they changing it to?
I have no idea. It's just in the works. I've heard rumors about this and that. Our main building is named after John Hagee. So maybe they're going to name the college after him. We don't.
Oh no, they'll tear him down somehow. Somehow he did something. Yeah,
Charles Nagy.
Yeah, something.
Hagee.
What?
Hagee.
Charles Nagy's from Connecticut. What town is it in?
It's in Waxahachie, Texas.
So that's what it's going to be. University of Waxahachie.
Waxahachie,
which is again a Scrabble word. But so Ben, what is the difference? Like, how did you start off your preseason workouts or just beginning season at college, and how much does it differ from what's happening now at these, the 14, 15, 16-year-old level? Or is it a lot the same?
So a lot of it is, I mean, it's pretty similar, but it's not the same. You get a lot of kids here that are like, hey, when are we jumping to front toss? When are we jumping to overhand? And in college, we took our first 2 weeks of the off season of hitting. Our first 2 weeks, we didn't leave the tee. We were, and then some of us even stayed on the tee for the first month of the off season because we realized the off season is so big. There's no point in jumping and rushing to overhand or front toss, and a lot of these kids here, they automatically want to do that because why? It's more glamorous to the eye. They can see how they're hitting the ball. They think it's cooler when more really fun. Yeah, it's more gratifying to the kids to hit the ball front toss and live than it is off a tee. But what's really going to make you better in the long run, So a lot of what we did was tee work. Ron Washington has his drills. We implement Ron Washington drills for the infielders. We didn't really do a lot of mass fungo for the beginning. We didn't really do a lot of ground balls for the beginning. We were just really working on for fielding with hands, and then for hitting, our hitting coach was something. But for me personally, I work on my hips and where my hips are and how I'm feeling. So I'll just leave the hitting coach out of it for now. But
so, Mike and I have talked on numerous podcasts that college coaching, we'll put that in quotes, is more about like managing game. I don't know, but there's not much.
Yeah, it's recruiting and X's and O's.
Recruiting, and X's and O's.
Yeah.
Not much like, Ben, your foot position should really be here for this reason, or you'd be better here for that. Not really much change to your, how you go, your either approach or your technique. We don't see much of that. Is that true, false?
I love my head coach from college. I love him to death. He's a great guy, great coach, but there isn't a lot of teaching going on. There isn't a lot of this, mainly because you're recruited for the way you play. So when you get there, they don't want to change the way you play. They're hoping over the 4 years, your skill set, what you're good at, sharpens, but they don't expect you to get better in things you're not good at, if that makes sense. Like if you're not good at something, they're not expecting you to get good at something. They recruited you for, say you're a pitcher and you have a nasty breaking ball. They recruited you for that. We want you to continue working on that as opposed to like sharpening, things you're not good at. So there isn't a whole lot of constructive criticism as far as posture, as far as mechanics, as far as that kind of stuff. Now, I did have a pitching coach that pitched, 5+ years in the big league, so he was a little bit more mechanical. But all in all the college coaches I've met, all the summer ball college coaches I've met, they're all about putting the roster, putting the lineup together, and executing plays, and that's about it. They don't really care about. They expect you to get the job done. They're not telling you how to get the job done. You know what I mean?
Well, and if you don't, most colleges, I don't know what size roster you had, but it's not uncommon to have, 40-man rosters. And
we had about 75 kids on the roster.
There you go. That's insane, right? So you're not getting it done. Next guy gets his opportunity. And This is not a knock on college coaches. And this is something we try to explain to our parents too, Kevin, and players, is that because you'll hear, oh, well, he's been working with our neighbor. Our neighbor was, played in college and then was an assistant coach in college for free. Like, okay, that doesn't mean he knows how to teach the stuff, because most don't. It's not their gig. It's their gig is to recognize the talent and ability, recruit that, right? Be a good enough salesperson to get that person to come to your school, and then know how to win games. When do I hit and run? When do I bunt? When do I replace this pitcher? What's my lineup?
Yeah, it's a business. It's a business. The coach has to look out for his family. He's got to win games. That's his priority. My head coach will be the first to tell you he was not a good college or not a good baseball player. He played at Geneva, and I'm pretty sure he sat the bench 3 of his 4 years at Geneva. He'll be the first to tell you that he wasn't a good player, but he wins ball games, and that's what they're there for. They're not there to like give instruction. They're not there to fix your swing.
At the end of the day, you can't. What's there to develop for? There are some programs, right, that where look at a JUCO. Okay, now a JUCO will have instructional coaches on their staff because it's their job to improve you from what you are to get you onto a D1 roster. That's their whole. That's what makes a JUCO coach successful, a JUCO program successful. So that's an exception. Most of them, you're there for 4 years, and they're gonna use you as much as they can to win as much so that they can get and sign another contract and keep their job. And that's what they should be doing.
And the hard truth of it is if you are signed as a freshman, you're probably not going to play your freshman year. And if they find a high schooler that's just as better than you already, you're probably not going to play at sophomore year. It's like, it's there's like you said, their turnover rate. We had 75 guys on roster. It was such a short leash that if you messed up, the next guy's in. It's next man up.
We've had obviously a bunch of college players, and we still have kids currently playing, and it's the same. Every successful program, they're going to create a rat race at every position if they can.
Yeah, right? They want to make it as competitive as possible.
That's right. So they recruit you. You're the number one recruit, and you're a shortstop, and they're telling you you're going to start as a freshman. Hey, the job's yours to lose, and that may be true. The very next year, they may go out and recruit 3 more shortstops and make sure that they're going to watch the cream rise to the top. So point here, though, is, Kevin, right, is that it's a completely different animal. It's not like, I'm sure there are college coaches, there has been, and I'm sure there currently are, who understand hitting, to a very specific degree. I would argue that, like that's what we do. We're instructional coaches, where we're about skill development. And I think I would say that I do that better than the average college coach, and the average college coach does his job better than I would, than going and managing and recruiting.
Well, kind of like our job is to make sure these kids are primed and ready to get to college. So when they're at college, they can come back to us if they need anything else, but we want to send them to these coaches knowing that they already know what to do and know how to correct themselves and know how to play the best of their ability. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would take it a step further and say that before that, you have to be a successful enough baseball player for a college coach to want you on their roster.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's like the food chain kind of. The college coaches almost can't survive unless if we go away, college coaches can't survive almost because we're giving them the talent for them to use, you know.
Yeah, I think it's no secret that because the indoor facilities have, the last 20 years have just become such a common thing. I mean, everyone will tell you that the college game has improved. Go watch. I remember, and we still have this with our kids. Like they kind of poo-poo D3. They hear D3 and every kid thinks they're going to be a D1 player because those are the teams they see on TV. And they just associate college baseball with, SEC, ACC, and obviously there's a lot more out there than just those. So you're going to be a very, very special player to play in those conferences. But go to on a Friday night and you watch two really good Division III teams. Like up here, we'll have, UMass Boston's always really strong. Babson's really strong. You're going to see those starters throwing in the mid 90s, yeah. I mean, and it's good baseball. And, understanding that only 4% of high school varsity players, not high school players, not high schoolers, not high school age kids that are actually at the level to play varsity high school baseball, only 4% go on to play college at any division. So, you're elite if you're playing. I don't care what division you're in. Yep. So it's that hard to get there. Like you really, really have to nail your skills.
You got to be obsessed with training.
But it sounds to me like the last piece of instructional training is what they're getting with what you guys do. Right, in travel ball programs, because they're not going to get it in college. So once
correct,
they hit that 17U team and they go off to college, that where are they getting instruction? Are they coming back to you guys? Like it seems like they're on their own island. So they really need to develop good habits to stay good.
Absolutely, and that's the key. It's like you get a kid, and that's why we always talk about if we get a kid at 13 or younger, and I say this like not exactly literally, but close, I'll almost guarantee that you're going to play in college, assuming that you're going to be here for training and you're going to follow our direction. We get a 13U player, we can teach them to be good enough to play in college at some level. Okay.
We can find a program for them.
Right. And once you get to 14, 15, especially if you've already had bad training, it's harder because it's a process. It takes 2-3 years to sometimes learn this. And the older it is, the longer it takes because you got look, Kevin, I meet a 12-year-old kid. That kid's taken thousands and thousands of swings before I ever met him. So to undo that and to create a new muscle memory it can be a pretty tall task. But to answer your question, yeah, it's the last line. We do have kids. We have college players come back all the time to tweak. I stay in contact with my college players, checking with them. Hey, yeah, I'm doing this. I keep rolling over or whatever. Hey, can I send you a video? Can you take a look at my swing? Tell me what you think, that sort of thing.
Yeah. But I would always send video of myself to a Speedo back home. And then every time I was home for breaks or anything, I'm hitting with a Speedo because I'm not getting any instruction in college. I need to fix my habits,
Yep. And it's just not the job. It's just not the job of a college head coach.
Yeah.
Imagine if you did that. You get a 75-person roster, and he's going to pick you out and work with you one-on-one. And
the odds are if he is doing that, he's doing it with his top 5% because those are the guys that he knows are going to play. And then if you're at the bottom, 95%, you're not getting any instruction.
One thing I'll add, the last thing I'll add is, and it's important to mention this, is that college coaches will instruct on hitting approach, right? On deck, all that. So the mental part of the game, the mental side of hitting, which is obviously very, very important. But we do that with our older kids too, but we do with everybody, but we have more time to do with our older kids because they have most of the mechanical stuff down.
And I will say, for my short-lived pro ball career, it doesn't get any better in pro ball. It's actually probably worse when it comes to coaches giving instruction. Like, then no one's there to help you out. So
I'll turn it around a little bit because I think this will segue nicely. So one of the things, Kevin, one of the additional things that we do that I think colleges will do in some regard, or they'll have a strength training program, but is our players are, they have to strength train. I mean, if you want to compete, you want to be recruitable, I mean, college coaches, college recruiters recruit almost like pro scouts now. You have to look the part, right? And so it's strength training's become big. We talked about it last time, right? We were the first to do it here. And now it's just commonplace for any baseball player knows that they have to strength train. The arm care stuff for pitchers has become a bit of an obsession. And not only that, but it's, band work, med balls. I don't see many people doing plyos where they should, but there's a lot of wrong that I see in that. Right. And I feel like something that we don't talk about that much. We talk about arm injuries and how throwing mechanics and all these other things and overuse are getting kids hurt. But I feel like some of it is just lots of questions about how to do certain things, right? How to do arm raises, lat arm raises, that sort of thing. Because I feel like there's a lot of information out there on what to do. Oh, grab a band and do this and make sure you get your internal rotations in. But not a lot of people showing how to do that the right way. And it's obvious.
Yeah, I mean that most of the, if not all of the injuries that I see have some component of poor training associated with it. Mismatch training would be one where I'd be like, what's the purpose of what you're doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then the other one would just be a lot of, poor technique. Guys that can't do a regular air squat or squatting, or now doing single leg exercises, doing lunges with dumbbell But then I watched the NFL, like some pregame, and I'm watching warm-ups, and there's a strength coach out there, and there's guys doing lunges, and not one lunge was correct that I would teach someone, not one. And then we wonder why running backs are out with hamstring injuries. Well, it's because you're doing it wrong.
Well, I know we've probably covered this before, but let me ask you: the lunge is a front leg or back leg exercise?
So having a ACL deficient knee and meniscal injury since I was 16 years old, a lunge is a rear leg exercise.
Bingo. And almost nobody uses it as a rear leg exercise from what I see.
No, because to do a proper lunge, we want to be everything at 90-90, right? The torso at 90 degrees to the hips 90 degrees to the knee, the shin 90 degrees to the foot. So when you teach a lunge, whether you're stepping forward or backwards, the key is where the movement comes from. And again, it goes to our friend Matt, which is the guy who's on your doorstep with no arms and no legs. Okay. So if you have prosthetic legs and you set them up at 90-90, the movement comes from your loins. You drop straight, from lack of a better landmark. You get your foot in that position and you drop straight down and raise up from your pelvic floor. That's where the movement comes from. But I will see step and immediately the knee going over the toe, the torso going over, and then them holding weights. I'd rather you just smash your knee with a hammer. It'd be a lot better for you. Just lessen the long-term, just might as well wreck your knee in one shot. So there's a lot of that. So to me, that is a complete, when I see that, right? So that's a basic exercise. When I see that, anything that comes, I manage like this and have for years. 1 is sum, 2 is all. So you go into your billing collection system and you find one mistake or one little pattern, some of your system's messed up. If you see it twice, all of it's messed up. You've got a virus, right? So if you see one exercise that's bad, some of what this person teaches is wrong. If you see 2, all of it's wrong, and you need to run.
So that's perfect, because I have a question, right? So the lunge, it's a pretty obvious one. It's a gross motor. It's in your face. It's hard to miss.
It's a one-legged squat with the other leg helping.
Right. Yeah. So if that is so wildly wrong, in so many places, right? What are the chances that somebody is, doing a lateral raise and they're supposed to be thumbs up, but they're maybe pronated too much? right? Like that's absolutely not going to get caught. If the lunge isn't being recognized and corrected.
So I got this question yesterday from our producer who called. And we're talking about, so first of all, we're doing front raises and lateral raises. My first question is why? What purpose are you taking and taxing your little long head of your bicep and anterior deltoid to do? It's something you're not doing anywhere in life, right? I'm not taking the lawnmower with my elbow straight and lifting it up or doing this. So it has no function that I have seen unless someone's doing the Stations of the Cross at Easter. Okay.
Maybe a mom, right? Picking their kid up.
Yeah, but they're never picking
Out of
the
the
kid up
crib.
like this. They're picking here, right? So it doesn't have any functional purpose. So, but that's beside the point. But when we talk about hand position, I kind of use soup to nuts. Okay. So this is supination, and you can watch my shoulders. I know I'm blending into the background, but you can see my shoulder partially covering the mic stand in pronation. And when I go in supination, you'll see my shoulders drop. Okay. Supination equals scapular depression. Pronation equals upper trap involvement. Pronation is nuts. We never, ever, ever, ever want to be in this position. You're just, as soon as I get into pronation, I'm firing my upper traps. Okay. It takes someone very skilled to be in this position and still maintain scapular depression. Maybe 5% of the people on the planet can do it. Okay. Or someone who's highly trained. But as soon as we're over here, this mimics, people have seen, unfortunately, someone who's had a stroke or polio, they've seen this position. Okay. It's also the fetal position. That's the flexion pattern of the body. That's lower brain function, meaning not intelligence wise, just the body goes to it like the safe mode on the computer. So once we're in pronation, elbow flexion, shoulder elevation. That's the flexion pattern of the body. We come out of the womb looking like that. We die looking like that. So it's the go-to safe movement for the body, even though it's detrimental to any kind of athletic movement to be in that flexion pattern. And I will see people out here doing things turned over. I mean, you turn your hand over like this and lift your arm up. The muscle that's doing that action is about this big, your supraspinatus tendon. Okay. And you're just killing it. But I'll see it. I'll see it with bands and I'll see it. And that's just someone who does not know anatomy, does not know functional movement. And I love an argument to prove that they do.
So that's an interesting point, right? Because obviously, what kids have been taught forever is when they throw a ball, the first thing that they should do is go into can't see my hands, right?
Yeah. Just leave your
turn and pronate your hand downward.
Just for the rest of the show, just leave your arms like this. Tell me if it's comfortable. Why would I want to do any athletic movement that I can't hold for a minute that's comfortable, right? When I can just take it out of the glove and be here, right? You can't throw the baseball from internal rotation and pronation. You can't,
right?
You can't do it, right? The hand eventually has to supinate and drop. So why would you start off in that position? It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, no,
and maybe when we do our pitching talk, we can talk about the insanity of that move. And listen, I'll hear the same thing. Every major league does it that way. Okay, that represents 0.005% of the population. And then again, it also represents more athletic injuries than any sport on the planet, right? More than football, more than basketball.
More than a league.
Yeah. The league, yeah, the whole time. So something's wrong with that teaching.
Very wrong. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. So this strength training, like the idea, you want to get stronger and it's important to get stronger. Included now into that strength training is, you hear the term all the time. It's arm care. Everyone hears it. Arm care. We have a player that, asked us if we were going to get this app that is an arm care app, and it's this device, and it measures things and you can read on your phone. And it's like, even if you have that information, even if it were accurate, which from what I understand, this thing is not very accurate. What are you doing with that? And how are you deciphering? And and if it tells you which one's the right one, which is the wrong one, based on whose information, right? Based on
plus you can't feel it yourself. You
Yeah,
need an app. You need an app to tell you. You can't feel it yourself.
Yeah.
So I've had a couple of. I've actually commented. That this is the new thing, right? If we make our arm and elbow strong, we're not going to have Tommy John surgery. Bullshit. Okay, bullshit. You can have the strong. You could have Hulk Hogan or Arnold Schwarzenegger throw baseballs. Okay, if they throw against gravity, they're going to get hurt. Okay, actually, and I will argue that the stronger or more bulked up arm there is, the more chance they have of injury. This is why guys back in the 70s and 80s weren't injured as much, because they didn't look like linebackers. Okay, they were they looked like accountants. Okay?
They were limber.
Jim Palmer looked like an accountant. Okay, Steven Strasburg looks like a defensive end. Okay, so you have all this muscle mass, and there's just not enough room to move in that shoulder. So, yes,
baseball is 5 ounces.
Yeah, the app you're
Syndergaard
talking
hasn't
about
pitched in years.
Yeah, the app you're talking about is measuring arm strength. It's the new biggest thing. Why? Because the people doing it, and does it measure strength? Sure, yeah, but they're big, huge promoters. Okay, which is a lot of what's going on.
Yep.
But look at how they're measuring. Okay, someone lying on their back, measuring internal and external rotation. Please name a sport where you're lying on your back with your arm out, abducted, doing internal external rotation. There is no sport. Maybe if you're playing with your dog, okay, there's no sport. So as soon as you turn the person to standing, okay, they have to stabilize their body. They have to do things, okay? Their arm strength is going to be different. So if you're measuring anything that's not in the functional position of your sport, you're wasting your time. Like the NFL still has the 225 bench press, yet we can't find 5 guys to block in the NFL for a quarterback for 2 Mississippi, right? So what does that bench press measure? Nothing, because as soon as I'm on my feet, I've got to stabilize my feet, my spine, my trunk. My strength changes. Okay, so when I'm on the mound, I'm not lying on my back up against a wall as you're doing internal and external rotation. And arm the arm moves eccentrically. It's the last thing to go. Okay, it's the last thing to move. If we want to talk about pitching strength, why don't we start? And I've asked the person who has this app in question, I asked them about the scapular thoracic strength, and I got crickets.
Yeah.
Crickets. Because the scapular thoracic joint comes before the shoulder joint. So you can't be working on a joint distal and not be talking about the joint that's proximal. End of story. But good promoters, better promoter than me.
That's the thing. It's like they because it's an issue, because there's so much desire for it. And that's my point is, the parent that asked about this, like he's been with us for a long time. He listens to my advice, but there are certain things where, there's outside elements now creeping in. And that happens sometimes when the players get older, right? And more people want to get involved in that player for some reason, right? Maybe they can attach their name to the future success, whatever it might be. I don't know, but or they just start looking for more things that can give them an edge as they start to, enter this pool where, they're going to be recruited nationally for colleges. I don't know, but the point is, there's so many gimmicks out there that are going to answer that call. You want more? You want another edge? Check this out, right? It's like, yeah, and not understanding, okay, what that is actually doing for you. And oftentimes, and I would argue to say even more often than not, is going to have a negative effect for that player. Yeah. It's going to put too much emphasis and focus on one area. It's the wrong area.
Listen, I'm a simple guy. The light comes on in your car, the engine light. When you bring it to the gas station and they hook it up to the computer to diagnose it, is the car on or is it off in neutral with the car in reverse and they're pushing it? It's on, because that's what the car does. The engine is on. So why would you be testing something in a position that the body is never in? And then saying that this is the end all be all to prevent arm injuries.
Right. Which is just insane. Just insane, especially when you have the actual mechanics of the pitcher, whether they use their legs and trunk to actually throw the ball rather than their arm. all these things. Like as you said, if it was about arm strength, then guys like Ronnie Coleman could throw a ball 140 miles an hour.
Ronnie Coleman can't even walk straight now.
Right.
No, his knees are gone. Yeah.
Right. But like all of these guys, you'd have, right. Or it's about arm. Yeah. Plain and simple.
Yep.
Plain and
So-
simple. And
Yeah,
then, then the whole thing about, it goes back to the whole, someone had posted about the velocity gun, how, Guidry back in 1978 was throwing 94 miles an hour. Well, that was at the plate.
Right.
That was at the plate. What do you think that is coming out of his hand? There's a guy who's like 5'8".
It's at least 100.
Right. Now, because now it's coming out of, now they're measuring at the hand. So it's just.
And it loses velocity the second it leaves your hand.
We can take, and this other, jarred with someone, I think we talked about a study. Okay. Let me just tell you, and Mike, from experience, a study can be manipulated. Okay. We don't have to look so far of what's currently going on now with our vaccine that had a 99% efficacy rate. Now, when I look up the word efficacy, what its definition before COVID was, you don't get it. But now that's changed, the word efficacy. So 99% means, well, you might certainly get it. So anything can be manipulated to prove a hypothesis unless it is a peer-reviewed and tested study that has a double blind to it or a control group, meaning there's another group getting a placebo, right? Unless that is the study and it's peer-reviewed, it's garbage. It's an opinion piece.
There's even ways to manipulate around those now too.
Yep.
100%. They want to sell their product.
Yeah, I mean, ask Sonny, for example. Sonny's a big Wikipedia believer. He loves his Wikipedia. He just believes everything he sees on there.
Love it.
He does. He often cites. Where'd you learn that?
Like, Wikipedia. I've been reading Wikipedia the last week. It has to be right.
It's got to be right. Right.
Even though I typed it last week.
It's changed 4 times since you started.
Yeah, and I listen. All the parts of people trying to get better, but you got to look at what's being sold, and more importantly, what are the results? And currently, with all of these tread athletics, drive line, I heard actually Philadelphia just fired their drive line hitting coach, and of course the Red Sox scooped him up. So good for the Yankees. That should be great. I guess that not only was he fired, apparently he was like thrown out. Like the people wanted him dead.
The Red Sox. Reps.
The Red Sox picked him up. So all the running guns, again, produce your results.
I will say, if you go to Full Reps in Camp Hill, Pennsylvania, they have a whiteboard, giant whiteboard of all of their arm velos. And every single arm velo on there is from a running gun and not on the mound, but they market it as these guys are throwing this hard off the mound.
Sure.
But it's not true.
That's disgusting.
Well, and Kevin.
And how healthy are those guys?
Kevin knows this. And
well, I went there and I wasn't healthy. So
well, here's the other thing they were doing is they were throwing bullpens. And I'm not saying full reps. I'm saying that what was a fad for a little while until college coaches caught on is there were people that were putting their kids out there, their players, to get them recruited, throwing bullpens with 4-ounce baseballs.
Oh, well,
and in the video, it looks like a baseball, and they see the gun, and boom, 96.
Yep, I never did it personally. I know guys that went to this place that did it personally. That was like, hey, we're running gunning 4-ounce baseballs, and then we're putting it on the board saying you just threw 106.
Yeah, crazy. That's not sustainable. You will get
real. It's just not real.
No.
Not to mention if anyone goes in there and sees.
I just can't. I can't. What I don't get is these baseball guys, coaches, recruiters that look at someone doing a running gun and be like, "Oh, that's legit." No, dude, this isn't cricket.
No.
Right? We go from a stable position to a foot plant to an explosive movement. How does the run and gun mimic that at all, other than being injurious?
Well, it's also gotten a lot crazier, right? Like when running guns first started, it was almost like an outfielder, right? It was like, a step and then a crow hop and a throw. Now it's like a 50-yard sprint.
Oh, dude,
like,
flip. It's like Michael Jordan leaving from the foul line, right? But they throw the ball from the foul line. It's insane. Yeah. It's just
speaking of, by the way.
Yes.
I think we do have one video we wanted to watch before we.
Oh yes, let me see if I can. This is from the aforementioned full reps in Pennsylvania. If I'm not from, if I'm.
That's what I understand.
Ben Bill's old place.
Which
is sad. It's sad because
after I fixed his arm, he decides to go there and ruin it.
it's sad though
Jackass.
because the coaches there are actually like I like the coaches a lot. Like as
Sure.
people, they're great people. But I just don't know. You know what I mean? Like the owner of the place, him and I like we're great. I wouldn't say friends, but we have a great relationship. But it's like,
well, that's true. We know this. This is evidenced by Ben Bills giving a hang loose on his way out of there one day with a smile.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we've seen that.
It's true. Actually, that was on my way in.
Oh, was it way in? All right.
I was pre-training.
Get this up and going here. Hold on. Oh, here we go. All right. So for those watching or listening at home, we have a pitcher on a mound indoors who's doing a magic trick. So he has a ball in one hand and one drill he's shaking some sandbag and then let it go and then throw the ball.
Like frantically shaking it.
Frantically. And then next he's frantically shaking a physio ball with some handles. It looks like one of those things you used to jump on as a kid. And then so he stands up on his front leg, does the shaking, shifts back to his back leg, and then throws the ball towards home plate. What that is measuring, I'm not exactly sure. Well, that's loud. I'm not exactly sure, but that's what he's doing.
Well, and the shaking too, it's almost like an aggressive, vigorous, like fast push-up. Like he's doing a push-up with that sandbag thing that he's holding, the log. It's one of those like plyo logs or whatever they call them.
Yes.
Right? Shaking, pushing away from him, and then the pitch. So I would love to know. Look, I think he's working. The comment says I think he's working on his command in this drill, but I could be wrong. So
I will say when I trained there, that none of that stuff was there.
Yeah, well,
like, dude,
but
this seriously, what
is the fad? It's trending.
What is this crap? From who?
That's it.
Like again, here's exercise with a purpose. What is the purpose of this? What is this building? Other than this, making this young man look like a jackass.
Yeah,
and,
well, that's
and again,
the thing.
we're not criticizing the player because the player's only doing what he's been told by some jackass coach that you're paying thousands of dollars to go there.
Right, and the fact that they didn't do it before, now they're doing it. Just kind of.
What's the cost to go there? What's the cost to go there?
When I went there, 2018. When I went there in 2018 for the winter, just the winter was like
$2,700.
Yeah, for
how many? Tell me what's that? How many
probably
times?
9 weeks.
9 weeks. Okay, how many kids are there at the same time as you?
There was probably like 50 kids at the same time. Probably like 40 to 50 at the same time.
So, dude, someone got a calculator?
That's
$150,000.
But that was just the high school portion, and then they had the high school guys, and then they had the younger guys, and then they had the college and pro guys. So it was all grouped together.
There's $500,000 right there of stuff.
So why is it that they're changing, right? And I think they'll probably tell you, oh, we've progressed, we've learned new things, and we know we're open-minded, and we're always students at the game. We're learning, and we want to add new things. And this is like the what's his name? The Bizarro version of that, right?
Yes.
Like, remember Bizarro?
The Bizarro world. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. It's the Bizarro version of you're not looking to stay open-minded and learn new things. You just want new flashy things that are different to make people who don't know any better look at that and go, wow, they're doing stuff I've never seen before. They must know what they're doing.
But some people who know better because they don't know what they're doing. Wow. Right. Then there's some people who then there's the people who you tell them, you show them, you show them science, you prove it to them live in front of their face, and they still go and do something insane or ask you like insanely. Like, dude, we showed you the solution. We proved it to you live.
Yeah.
And you're still a skeptic, or that to me, someone would be like, you know what? You're doing more harm than good to your kid. And your kid's never going to make it because you're looking for the next shinier object, and it just doesn't exist because you were shown what works.
The sad thing is like you got guys like my dad who who pay this money because they believe it, and they're not like scientists. They're not
Of course,
PT
that's the point,
guys. Like,
and that's what they're marketing to.
and my dad, like, he's a great guy and he loves baseball and he's big into it, but he's not going to question a guy who tells him this stuff because he sees the big TVs and the slow motion cameras. So he's like, they must be legit, you know? So it's kind of like stealing money from people.
I've heard a parent say this. Okay. Now this is 4 or 5 years ago. And I don't know if it was the Texas baseball, but it was a place like that. Right. And they said, yeah, we're thinking about doing this camp and it's 3 days and it's $8,400. And I go, what? What are they like? Are they literally like attaching like Nolan Ryan's arm on his shoulder? What are they? And he's like, well, I don't know. He goes, but if it's that much money, it's got to be pretty good, right?
Oh, dude, I'll be I'm in masterminds that will tell you to, like, you'll say, well, you know, Kevin, what do you charge? I charge X. They'll tell me right off the bat, quadruple it. I'm like, what? I was like, dude, you quadruple it. So now you need one, where before you needed 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Now you need one.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Maybe we
and
should
the same
just
and the
upcharge
same
everyone.
and the same philosophy you said, just like the glove, just like the Wilson 2000 if I was a kid, it was, you know, $300 in the glass counter, right? It's perceived value because you're charging so much money. I mean, I hope that I actually deliver on that value, but every time you get into a business mastermind course, immediately first thing is double your fees.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I mean, you know, I know you're the same way. Like, I got to be able to put my head down at night.
100%.
You know what I mean? So, like, you know,
that. And I think I over deliver. Like, I think I'm, you know, like, so yeah, I think I could double my fees and be like, yeah, I'm compared to what you're getting down the street, apps 100%.
Well, we're in that same boat. I mean, look, you know, we're probably the most expensive around, but what we deliver on, the value of it's far more than what we actually charge.
They're in on your plate. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, we've been at this for an hour, I think so.
I think so. So again, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go to our website, proveitlive.com. You'll see how to contact us, how to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And thanks again for listening. Adios.
There you go.